I mean, our aggressiveness, our attention to detail, our ability to contest without fouling, to be disciplined, in that area, I thought was huge. We played good enough defense down there, and our offense just couldn't get going, and we were able to get it going on both sides tonight. I continue to just be so proud of this group and their resilience, their toughness, and their ability to respond.
Well, welcome inside Fever Insider. Tony East will be Indiana Fever 77-60 win Fever the first home playoff game since 2016. Decisive fashion in front of seen from this franchise. Loud, super energetic, really. For whatever reason, I've said it, with their backs against the wall, the odds every time, it seems like.
Yeah, type of situation they had to be in, and it's interesting how, they were double players this today protocol, and I was really down to, not playing a lot, kind of like it affected them. Base the floor, she wasn't there to shoot threes, she wasn't there defense, but Indiana themselves, everybody really brought that physicality that Atlanta, and Coach Carl Smesko just talked about how it was an off, and you could tell they did as the second half
was bad. Hey, so for the people commenting, I can't hear what it sounds like, but
Tony is better.
like we're robots in slow motion.
Whoa, yes. Okay. Wow, that's so creepy. All right, I'll talk for a little bit, I suppose. I don't know what you guys have or haven't said, or if it's just been robot-y slow motion the whole time, but yeah, good win for the Fever today, because Brian, you wrote this story. I wrote a very similar one about Stephanie White talking about the little things, right? And those were problems in game one, and I don't even know necessarily that they fixed them in this game. And if you told me that, I would have not thought they won this one, but they made a bunch of threes. Kelsey Mitchell made as many in the first quarter of this game as they made all of game one as a team. And that was huge because the Dream couldn't make any. And their defense was just awesome, right? Like that was, I don't know where 60 ranks. I think Chicago had a few games under 60 this season in scoring for Fever opponents. But like among their best defensive games, any game, any opponent all season against the second best offense in the league. Ooh, I hear different sounds from you guys. I hope that's a good
better now?
Yes, you said yes.
Okay, good. We figured it out. Thank you, everybody. Go ahead,
Yes.
Tony.
Yeah. So I would say that despite not even improving as much as they would maybe have hoped in the little things, and they did better in some, as you asked post game, Chloe, but they're making their hugest things, making jump shots and defending much better was the story of this game to me. They looked really good.
Chloe, you mentioned, as we sounded like slow motion robots, that you expected the absence of Damiris Dantas to have more an effect than it did. It did not. And just to recap for everybody, Indiana Fever wins 77-60, must-win game. Adversity brings out the best in this team. Backs against the wall. They play really well.
Yeah, but I mean, they really brought up the physicality today to really match Atlanta. And I think the crowd too was, a big factor where they really followed Ariel Powers' lead too. Like we were talking today or post game about how Ariel Powers, she seemed to have a giant impact on this game. And then we looked at the box score and we were like, well, she only had 3 points, but like she brought so much energy to this game. And I believe it was 7 rebounds as well, but she just brought so much energy on the court, pumping up the crowd to her teammates. She chest bumped Stephanie White so hard that, Stephanie White's glasses fell off.
An iconic moment.
So Stephanie White said post game, it makes her remember she's not as young as she used to be, but Ariel Powers really just brought that energy and that fed into the crowd, which really I think fed into the rest of the Fever themselves.
Real quickly, we have that clip, Stephanie White, Aaliyah Boston talking about Ariel Powers and just the impact that energy she has puts on the game.
It's great. She's someone that she feeds off so much energy, and she always has a lot of energy. So I think for us, just making sure that we always match that. And I love when I see her hype up the crowd, everyone gets involved. But I think AP, just what she brings to us, that aggression, just getting after loose balls, it's great.
What about that chest bump?
It's like the third time, and every time I just keep remembering that I'm not as young as I used to be.
There you have it. Tony, your thoughts on Ariel Powers? And I mean, just the emotions that they played with. You pointed it out on Twitter, but I mean, every play, the Fever, just a massive reaction, like a late game situation. I mean, even in the first half where you have Ariel Powers go down, I think she hit a shot, drew a foul, whatever it was, and she's looking at the fans and sitting courtside, like pointing at them and interacting with them. And then you see her pumping up the crowd as she's going. And I mean, just everybody was doing that the entire game.
No, it's funny. Like, I could have made a case if she was like the most boring, nonchalant person ever today, that she was still their most critical bench player, 7 boards, good defense. And with the way the game flowed, like Sims really struggled. They couldn't get Mitchell the ball in the third quarter for a stretch. Powers was playing like point guard, taking the ball across half court and like actually initiating real plays. She played really well as a player, despite going 1 for 5. Full stop. That's good. And then every critical play, bumped and knocked over, whistle blown, getting a steal, anything that was a stoppage right after the Fever crowd got hype. Ariel Powers jumped up and her arms were flailing around and just pointing at people. There was one play where it was not a timeout, but it was like a little stoppage, and the Fever like huddling up as a team, and Ariel Powers on the other side of the court with a fan like giving him a high five and going crazy. Yeah, like that was her the whole game, right? And that was, I think, really important because especially in a game like this where the history will remember this game as a blowout. They won by 17 and were up 20 in the fourth quarter. But like it was a 3-point game in the third quarter at one point, like similar to game 1, honestly, where it was close after 3 quarters and then the Dream ran away with it. This one was close for a while. Like those passionate, contagious moments really matter. And I thought Powers was just huge in a lot of ways because of all that kind of stuff today.
I agree because I think with the Dream being within 3 points in the third quarter, as you mentioned, I think at one point the Fever were leading 40-29, and then obviously the Dream went on an 8-point run, and then you had that instance where Ariel Powers chest bumps Stephanie White, and she gets the crowd hype, she gets the bench hyped, and that was really what I think of as the like moment where the momentum switched. Because after that
Fever hilarious.
Run, and then I think it was like 15-7 the rest of the quarter after that, and they had a 15-point lead by the end of the quarter. So I think that was really where the momentum shifted at that point.
It's funny you say that. Sorry, Brian, I'm going before you. Because in my notes, the turning point of the game was 40-37. The Dream had the ball, and Nia Coffey had like a pretty good-looking layup and missed. And then the Fever immediately scored 5 points, and they were back up and in control. And like that layup that would have cut it to 1 and been a 10-0 run, like the Dream momentum, not happening. And then Ariel Powers doing that, that was the biggest like 2 minutes of real life time, I think, of the game.
End of the third quarter felt kind of like the dagger moment where you get, 5 points in 9 seconds to cap off a 7-0 run. You have Kelsey Mitchell with a really nice slick pass to Aaliyah Boston in the post. We'll talk about Aaliyah here in a bit. Boston hits the 2, then the Shea Petty deflects the inbound pass over to Kelsey Mitchell, swings it up to Boston, swings it over to Lexi Hall, who we talked about after last game needing to have more of an impact offensively. She drills an open 3-pointer. Crowd's going batshit. Everybody on the bench going batshit. Everybody's losing their minds. And that really felt like the dagger. It was maybe premature in the moment to say that, but looking back in the flow of things, it really was kind of the backbreaker. It's like Atlanta had to work so hard to get back into it. And they've done it a couple times earlier, but each time the Fever had a response. And at that point, the crowd had chance to really get into it, carried it through the break. And speaking of that sequence, we have Aaliyah Boston on how that impacted the game.
It was great for us. That seriously was scoring the ball and then getting that tip and then Lexi hitting that three. I mean, the energy, everyone felt it. The crowd was going crazy. And we just used that momentum into the fourth.
Tony, thoughts?
Yeah, it was huge. And it was right at, I don't remember exactly the sequence of events, but Griner had scored. And then after that, I remember there was a Ryan Howard backcourt violation. And that was like, the Dream had it to 8, and it was like, man, like if the Fever could be up 10 plus going into this fourth, I think they'd feel really good. And instead of being up 8, they were up a ton because they had this masterful like last minute of the quarter. They scored another basket in there that I'm not remembering, but that was besides the stretch we already talked about, like the biggest probably one play of the game in terms of how it flipped how the game felt, where it felt like, okay, the Dream could still come back and have a puncher's chance to like, oh, this building has exploded and the Fever are up 15 with 10 minutes to go. They've got it. I think that was the one play for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I thought, I think the Fever were up 8, as you mentioned. And I thought, maybe the Dream could come back from this. It's not, a game that's over yet. But then by the time they get up 15, crowd's roaring. It seemed like it was over at that point. And then they got up by, I think it was 23 at one point. It was just, that was the point where it was over, I think.
Should have mentioned this at the top, but we didn't because I'm bad. But comments, questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll get to a few of them as we go along here. Where should we go next? Aaliyah Boston?
Well, can I say one more thing about that play?
Of course.
Yeah. The other reason you could tell it was the dagger is because like the Dream had their soul snatched at the start of the fourth. Like they were playing so out of it, floaty basketball. Like they knew that was the game too. And then Aaliyah also was awesome all night. So you could talk about Aaliyah now. Sorry.
I was waiting for the shots to fall for the Dream because like
me too.
They're such a strong 3-point shooting team, and they made 1 3-point shot in the first half, and they only made 2 shots. Like they are technically 5 of 19 from 3-point range, but only 2 of those shots were in the game. Like were when the game really mattered, which is what the Dream coach mentioned after the game. Like 3 of those shots came what was basically garbage time with 6 or less minutes left in the game. I think is when he kind of emptied his bench at some point. But they really did a good job of taking away what was the Dream's best, attribute, which is the 3-point shooting and 5-out kind of offense that Carl Smesko likes to run.
What did they start? 0 for 9, and then one that they hit, their first make was some circus shot from basically the logo area with Alicia Gay with the hand in her face. I mean, that was astonishing. And like you guys, I kept waiting for water to find its level and for them to kind of pick it up a little bit from 3, but they never really did. And I think that's a tribute. Obviously, you have off nights, but also I feel like you got to give the Fever a lot of credit there for making things difficult for them and crushing that confidence early and making sure that they never had a chance to get things going.
A lot of those threes came from a very intentional Fever effort to Bree Jones would catch in the post. And not only was Leah on her, but like someone else would rotate down to help or prevent the baseline spin to make it an easy layup. Bree Jones loves to go under the basket. The Dream in general as a team loved to go under the basket. They got 2 travels called on them for doing it in the first quarter of the game. So when the double would come, Bree Jones would kick out to a shooter. And the Fever did really well getting out on those passes and rotating well and communicating. That's a key spot for breakdowns.
One more video clip as we all catch our breath here. A few more video clips, but this one right here is Stephanie White, Aaliyah Boston on the performance side overall.
Getting the hustle plays, getting on the floor after loose balls. It was finishing defensive plays, making sure that we boxed out and then went and got the ball. It's setting screens, using screens to give us opportunities on the offensive end, communicating, and our point of screen defense on the defensive end. We took care of those things. I mean, you're going to have your moments in game. But when you continue to have more moments where you are executing and have more moments where you are playing with multiple levels of effort, good things usually happen. And our group was able to do that.
Yeah, I think for me, just continue to be assertive. Just reading the defense, trying to get good possessions going. If I just get the ball, feel it out, see where the ball needs to go next, whether that's shoot it or pass it. I mean, I'm just kind of just taking what the defense is giving me.
Segues perfectly into the conversation about Aaliyah Boston. She was limited offensively in game 1 against Atlanta tonight. She goes 7 for 12, 1 for 2 from 3 for 15 points, goes for 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and then a plus 14 rating. She was extremely visible tonight, and it seemed like a pretty concerted effort to get her going early. Chloe?
Yeah, I feel like whenever Aaliyah Boston makes a 3-pointer, it's like Fever are going to win that game. Like, I believe her 3-pointer was during that 7-0 run the Fever had right after Ariel Powers, chest bump Stephanie White that I keep mentioning, it seemed. But,
so funny.
But that was like, also just a moment that, she's not guarded on the 3-point line very often because she's not a big 3-point shooter. And whenever she makes that 3-pointer, which is, once every 5-ish games, I would say, I don't know for sure, but it's gotten a lot more frequent this year compared to her first 2 years in the league. But whenever she makes that 3-pointer, it's very much something that gives them a lot of momentum. But even outside of that 1 3-pointer, she was a lot, I think, more physical tonight. She could, really, match up against Bree Jones, Brittany Griner more. She had her back against the wall, literally, figuratively, with being on the brink of elimination. But, she just stood up to it a lot better, I think, tonight than she did on Sunday.
Tony?
It's funny too, because we talked after game 1 about, and Stephanie White has now mentioned this, so I feel better that I'm not just making stuff up. Like, a lot of what Aaliyah Boston's impact on their offenses is like being a fulcrum at the top. Like, a guard passes her and she swings it to the other side or dribbles over and does a handoff or whatever. And with Kelsey Mitchell, that chemistry is very obvious, but that opens up like easier shots for the players. And in game 1, where nobody could make a thing outside of Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah being in foul trouble and having an arrhythmic kind of night bled to every other player, right? And it's not all on Aaliyah sometimes, and sometimes it is. And in this game, not only was she out of foul trouble, although I was concerned at first. She had 2 in the first half that made you wonder. But she did when she was in the game, they played through her in a way that not only, again, keeps Kelsey Mitchell going, and she was quite good again, but other players get easy shots out of that. Sims got a lot of good shots. She didn't make them, but a lot of bench players were getting good looks. And of course, that helps Aaliyah Boston herself. Not the team leader in assists, but still played quite well. And of course, she herself made shots, including, like Chloe said, the 3. So that's the level of involvement they need. Both coaches said the same thing. They want to use Bree Jones similar to how the Fever want to use Aaliyah. Swing it side to side and have them be like an occasional shooting threat, dives into the post kind of player. And today, Aaliyah was the better one in that matchup. And that was a huge swing for the Fever, because the only stretch they won game 1 was the stretch that she looked great to start the game.
Yep. And I think she's gotten a lot better at making those reads too. And, compared to her first couple of years in the league, like, obviously this year, Stephanie White has talked a lot about how she wants Aaliyah to be the hub of the offense, especially with Caitlin Clark out and limited to 13 games. And like, I think specifically to that read where she threw it out to Lexi Hull and she hit that 3-pointer to end the third quarter, and to have that big swing with the 5 points in 8.8 seconds, like, Aaliyah Boston was an integral part of that play, just because she made that split-second decision. Like, it was obviously an obvious decision to get it out to Lexi, but she was able to make that read very quickly, and that's where I think she's grown a lot in her 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I wasn't sure if Tony had a follow-up to that. I was just going to let you two continue.
When it's just me, Chloe, I'm like, wait, we got a third person. We got to go back to you.
You go at it. I know nothing. I'm the nitwit here. I'm just here to run point and throw you guys the ball and let you guys cook. So if you have a response to that, have at it, brother.
No, I totally agree. And like, you could see she got better as a passer to start the season because she knew the system better, right? And talked about the speed changes. And that's why that passing is so much. We've talked about this after the last game. That passing is so much more important with all their point guards gone, right? And so when she is involved and they can use her as not as like a creator, but as a passer, another player to keep the ball moving, they just are better, right? And that was the case today.
It is startling, shifting big picture. Look at this boxer, how different it is compared to game 1. I mean, the bench is a perfect example of that, where
yes,
Shea Petty played big minutes, Bree Turner played big minutes, Ariel Powers got in for 17, even Michaela Timpson got in at the beginning of the game in the first quarter. So she had some significant minutes in just her 9-14. Everybody's contributing. The bench was scoring. They were contributing. And it just looks so much healthier than what it did after game 1. So much
more balanced.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Me too.
Yeah. That's what I do is I bring. Go ahead, Don.
With one, first of all, shout out Michaela Timpson, the only Fever bench player to make more than one shot in a game in this series. She was awesome. And coming out with an and one to start the fourth quarter to keep the momentum going after that crazy 8-second stretch was really important. Bree Turner cannot get enough love for the things she has done since she's been like forced to play. she's like been a center her whole career, and like, yeah, you're playing the 4 now next to a point center sometimes. And like, look, everybody can admit, I think Bree Turner would too, that her offense has not been great, especially like putting the ball in the basket, which is an important basketball skill. She's been awesome at everything else. And the key stretch today that I didn't get a chance to ask about, but I wanted to, is she was awesome defending Griner in the first half stint that Griner had. And when she came out of the game during a stoppage, Steph White made a point to go right to Bree Turner and give her a credit and a high five because of that stretch. And Griner is just huge and massive. And like when she's in the game, that's how the Dream want to play. They want to get her the ball. Turner's defense and boards and 2 steals in this game, plus 10. She was really good and a big part of their bench having a nice night.
Yeah, we've come a long way from people coming on this show and asking us why they keep Brianna Turner on the roster because she's just a human shot clock. But she's really come into her role as a defender. Like, I think it has been, discussion that she's not really expected to be in a big offensive role with the Fever. And, but she's expected to have that defense, like you mentioned, on Brittany Griner. And she's really come into it since she started getting those minutes kind of in the second half of the season.
Really impressive. I think back to that Connecticut game where they came back from 20, she played some huge minutes there defensively and earned the coach's trust to a point where they had her in there for the entirety of overtime, late in the fourth quarter in crunch time. And I mean, it speaks to kind of this team's character, and it's something we've talked about ad nauseum, but staying ready, being ready for your moment, even if you're getting moved positions, like Tony mentioned, you're being buried at the end of the bench, whatever it is, just being ready. We've seen it with Lexi Hall, see it with Brianna Turner. It is a unique group. And I was kind of thinking about that as we were watching this game. It's like, it's kind of a bummer because no matter what, it's going to be a different looking team next year. And it sucks because it's a fun group to be around. You can tell that they genuinely enjoy being around each other. And I mean, just even from an objective observer standpoint, they're fun to watch. It's fun to watch them interact with each other. And regardless of what happens, I mean, there's a chance that tonight was the last time that anybody that we're going to see this group, this iteration at home playing in person.
Yeah. I mean, also about Brianna Turner, just to go back to that, I think, she's not necessarily a scorer, but she's not a sitting duck offensively either. She can set those active screens. She can, create those openings for her teammates. Like, they don't have her score a lot, but she's very involved in the offense too. And I agree with obviously your point of this team has gotten a lot closer. I think Lexi Hall mentioned it before the playoffs started. Like, they feel a lot closer, this year compared to last year, just because of how many injuries they've had. Like, obviously they have the 5 season-ending injuries. Damiris Dantas is in concussion protocol now. Like, they've had a lot of injuries just pile up throughout the season. Obviously, Lexi Hall herself got hit in the head and had black eyes for a couple of weeks. Like, they've gone through what seems like more injuries than 3 teams combined. So they are a very close team, and I think that also has helped them through this game too.
And in this kind of game, you see where having all those iterations was helpful. Like if you wanted to be like the gritted teeth, like optimist when their whole team was getting hurt every third game, basically, it's just like, well, in theory, you're finding ways to be more versatile with the resources that you have, right? Players have to play like returner in different positions, or you're doing a goofy lineup with Lexi Hall doing this, or, who's playing point guard now, what the heck? And like, that's how a game like tonight happens, where like Ariel Powers comes in and is really important, or like, oh my gosh, the Shea Petty groups were terrific in this game, right? It's not even like she was so awesome, but when she was on the floor, everybody knew what to do. They were connected. They knew how to play. Like, tonight was kind of the face of what they like hope you get out of these next man up moments, even though you don't want to have them, obviously. So that kind of bleeds into the whole thing about their bench being quite good. And, if you're Leah Boston or Kelsey Mitchell or their stars who were creators, you have to learn how to play with those players. And they were both fantastic in this game as a result. So it was kind of a culmination of them growing closer and learning how to do all this different stuff throughout a whole season.
Any other closing thoughts on game 2 before we shift attention to game 3?
I think I'm good.
I have one. I can do one thing.
Sure.
It's not even really an observation. Just like, I think we would be remiss not to note the amount of time since their last playoff victory before today.
Oh, yes.
Is significant. Yes. Less than a month away from it being a 10-year gap. Stephanie White was the coach the last time. Natasha Howard was on the team the last time they won a playoff game. It was a long time ago. So we'll see what this series becomes. And like, hey, look, they could have home court next round. The Storm won tonight. Like, don't get too far ahead of yourself, obviously. But it's like even beyond the, like, again, the gritted tooth optimist I was just talking about, being like, they could win the championship. Like this was a big day for the franchise to like finally get that off their back, even if it might mean nothing in the grand scheme of the season.
Yeah, I think it's also just, showing how a rebuild is working. Like, obviously, we're bad from 2017 to 2023. They got the number 1 pick with Aaliyah Boston, and then they still missed playoffs in 2023. Then they got Caitlin Clark. They made the playoffs in 2024. They obviously didn't have home court, but they didn't win a game in those playoffs. And this year they win at least one game in the playoffs. I think it just shows how a rebuild should work, and I mean how much time it takes too, because the Fever were maybe considered championship contenders at the beginning of the season, but then obviously with all these injuries, with everything that happened, they're not the championship contenders, at least the odds makers say. But it just shows how meticulous a rebuild has to be, and how the Fever are coming out of it at this point and getting back to the championship team they were, or the the playoff team they were when Tamika Catchings was here.
Someone once likened a rebuild to like turning around like a barge or a really large ship. It's just one of those things that it takes time. You have to be patient, but with time you'll get there. And it feels like that's where the Fever are. And like you said, I mean, this is invaluable experience, because they're going to be players on this team who are back next year, obviously. And that experience of having won a playoff game is going to do wonders. Kelsey Mitchell kind of talked about that tonight. Just having been here before and just sitting there on the bench the fourth quarter and kind of seeing this stuff come through and taking that next step of school. Speaking of Kelsey Mitchell, she had a really good gem of a quote.
I love it.
And that's the game 3. So here we go.
It will be a really good challenge for us. I think, obviously we want to win a game and they want to win a game. So I think somebody has to lose and somebody has to win, obviously. But I think that we take tonight for what it is and start mentally preparing once it hit 12 o'clock and being able to go into what's important for Thursday. And so, like I said, it's a big opportunity tonight, but you got to let it be the moment and let it kind of fuel you for Thursday, but you got to move on.
The Fever want to win. The Dream want to win. That's where I start our game 3 conversation. Thank you, Kelsey Mitchell.
Obviously, the first part of it was very rudimentary, as Aaliyah Boston kind of laughed at. But I think the second part of what she said was, really what you have to take from it. I think, the Fever can't get too high off of this win. Obviously, this is a great win for their momentum, a great win for extending their postseason, but they also can't, just take that high into Thursday and kind of slack off in a way because of that. They have to kind of reset, I think, and go in with that same mentality on Thursday that they had on Tuesday or had tonight, with the backs against their wall mentality, elimination game mentality, because it is still on Thursday an elimination game. It's just an elimination game for both teams, but I liked how she mentioned that they just need to reset and they need to go in with that same mentality.
A must-win game, to use the world's worst sports term, but this is actually for both teams a must-win game. For once, it's actually fair. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how they decompress from this one, right? Because I don't even know if they will walk away from it being like, yeah, we played awesome. Like they won by 17, that looks great, but yeah, we talked about the big stuff being huge earlier, and Brian and I wrote about the little things. They still had 15 turnovers. They still had 16 fouls. Like they still did a lot of stuff. They're like, dang, like if we clean that up, we're leaving 5, 6, 7, 8 points, whatever, on the table. And they shot well. They did not miss a free throw. Like that's awesome. That's great. You got to win on that stuff. Like you can't count on really good, like this is their 12th game, I think. 42% or better from deep this season. They've never made all their free throws in a game this season. Like odds are that those won't be there, right? So how can you make up the points in other ways? I still think they have that will be their biggest like focus point, and it's hard to do that because I think the thing with little things for these games is you're thinking so much in a playoff game. There's more game plan. It's just a different level of prep that players are going to mess up. They're high strung in these moments, but if they still have room to cut some of that stuff down and give themselves even a bigger margin for error to not have to be lights out from the charity stripe or from 3, the opposite of what the Dream were in this game. And
it's going to be like what Kelsey Mitchell talked about after game 1 about the importance of punching them in the mouth, being the first to punch, and all that. But now it's the opposite, where you have to neutralize that home court advantage immediately. Chloe, is this game going to be back in the cave or whatever?
The Gateway Center. I will say, the Gateway Center, it is small, but it gets really loud in there.
It just looks really bad on TV, was what I was alluding to.
the black court on the lights on the black court it looks a lot better in person because the lights, I think the glare, and then there's the TV that makes the black court just not look very good. But it looks better in person, first of all, and I think it gets a lot louder than you would think. I think it's 3,800 is their capacity because they added some seats behind one of the baselines. But I think it can get really loud in there, and it did get really loud on Sunday. So it's still going to be a home court advantage for the Dream, I think. I mean, obviously, but it does get rowdy in the same way like Gamebridge kind of can have that effect too.
When's the last time the Fever blew out a team on the road?
Chicago.
Was that the game that all three of us were at back like 2 months ago?
Chicago United Center, yeah. I think so. That's the one that comes to mind first.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that, and when they've strung together performances like this.
Yeah, the Baltimore. Yeah, but that was like not a blowout for a while. They were losing after the first quarter. Like that Chicago game, they handled them wire to wire.
Yeah, it was a very quiet 30-point win in Baltimore.
Yeah, it was. It came out of nowhere. It was like, oh, they're up 8. Oh, they're up 30. Okay.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, hey, how about that?
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. All right, so before we get to folks' questions, continue to pop in questions. Maybe one's not about Caitlin Clark. Yes, she is eligible to come back. No, that's not going to happen. But she is eligible if she is ready to go. But there's been zero reason to believe that to be the case.
I think, if the Fever thought she could be back for the finals, allegedly, they would not have ruled her out for the season. They would have said that, I think. But it was very decisive that, she's out for the 2025 season, and they look forward to her, being healthy to start 2026. So I think if there was a chance she'd be ready for a potential finals run, they would have said that, or they wouldn't have said she's out for the season so decisively.
Somebody asked, Tony, I don't know if you saw this. I missed this during the game. Chloe, I don't know if you saw it either, but we have Alicia Gray on the screen. Please elaborate on the situation with the fan being escorted out.
Yeah, that was really kind of out of nowhere, right? But there was a play that happened when the Dream were on offense, and then she's like clearly looking at a fan. I couldn't really tell what was happening, and then the Fever went back on offense, and Alicia Gray did not go back. She was kind of on the other end of the floor, and then eventually she turned around to go back on defense. But at that point, that either the Fever scored or Dream got to stop. I didn't see it because I was watching Alicia Gray, so she didn't ever cross half court. Then she came back down, and then after that play, she was like talking to a different fan all of a sudden. So one was behind the baseline, and one was off to the side. And then after the second fan, security came and escorted I saw a male adult out. But then I had people telling me, I didn't see this part after, but I had enough fans, exactly what T Smiles says here, that they came back to their seat. So I don't know what was said. Alicia Gray did not speak. You guys were there in post-game media, so we have no idea what the incident was. But we did see her leave, or the fan leave. I watched them take him out, and I did see her talking with people. So I'll be very curious at what was said or if anything there. But the fact that he came back does suggest to me that it wasn't anything super nefarious. But my wild speculation last time was that Damiris Dantas would play in this game, and that didn't happen. So I don't want to wildly speculate again.
It seemed like a similar situation. I believe it was the first game of the 2024 playoffs when the Fever and Mohegan Sun, Caitlin Clark pointed someone out. I think it was 3 rows behind the court side. That person got escorted out in the first quarter. He eventually came back. So I don't know if, you just get a little talking to from security or what really happens. But I guess in both cases, it wasn't bad enough that they were kicked out entirely.
I assume it's a hey, what'd you say thing. And they verify it with people around them to make sure they just be like, I didn't say anything, right? But I don't know exactly what happened. But the fact that they came back, all the context clues we have is that I bet Alicia Gray was frustrated about something said. I don't want to say anything on her behalf because she has to answer these questions, but I would assume nothing was so nefarious that somebody needed to be ejected or anything.
Yeah.
To answer this one, small building. I'm guessing they're just on tape delay, but yeah, small building for that one.
Yes. There is another conflict at State Farm Arena. I checked.
Ooh, what's this one?
It's a press conference with Jake Paul and another guy for a fight. It's not even the fight that they're doing. It's a press conference for the fight that they're doing at some point. I don't know. I don't follow fighting or WWE or anything. So All I know is it's a press
That
conference.
that seems more like an event for 3,500 fans.
I was just gonna say.
That's what I was saying. Like, why is there a press conference in State Farm Arena? But I don't make the rules.
You just follow them.
Yeah.
Well, the bigger question: are they going to wear the correct shirt colors as fans for
I
Game
will
3?
say, Seattle had a whiteout today,
They did.
and the Aces were white. Like, why are these teams having whiteouts when literally the road teams are the ones that wear white? Like, that's.
But it's obviously working because the
I was going to
teams
say,
the colors have won both games that this has happened.
Well,
who
no,
are we to critique?
The people wore white on Sunday and they lost. So. But,
Right, so it's good by the Dream. They did it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
The team with the goofy whiteout, no white jerseys, has won both games.
That's true.
I'm excited to see what color combos they roll out there on Thursday. That's all I really care about.
The Valkyries randomly have like a navy out tomorrow against the Lynx.
Yeah,
I think they are
there needs
having
to be
like
more
a purple
navy
out.
outs.
Then
I
more
think
navy.
Maybe a magenta out.
Yeah, they are having a purple. There are purple shirts on the seats I saw.
Oh,
from-
they're playing in San Jose. I hope that.
Yeah,
looks
they are.
cool. I hope.
Oh, like the
Sorry.
S&P Center or whatever, the SAP
Yeah,
Center.
the hockey place. We're drifting away too much, but yes.
No, it's fine.
No, this is my fault. I started it.
Even if the Fever make the finals, Caitlin Clark won't even try to return. Does she have an ACL tear too? Chloe?
I don't know where the ACL tear come from, but I would think, as I said before, I don't know if Tony wants to weigh in, but if the Fever thought she could come back if they potentially make the finals, they wouldn't have said, or Amber Cox in her statement, when Caitlin said she was out for the season, Amber Cox wouldn't have so definitively said, we're looking forward to her coming back healthy in 2026.
I assume the ACL comment is in jest. Like, does she also have this? Is she out for that long because of this? Look, if I had to read the tea leaves, I would say that my guess is now that she's been rolled out for the season, she's not doing basketball activities at all. So the chance of her like ramping up conditioning and activity to play is like an actual hurdle at this point. That again, I'm guessing, but that was a hurdle for her first recovery too, right? And they talked about getting her to do full practices and do stuff on their West Coast trip, and that they didn't meet the benchmarks or whatever the exact phrasing was. So I'd imagine that would be now a big on ramp, and maybe they're like, well, wow, we have a 5-game series, let's try. I don't think they're going to do that. Like, at what point is it just not even worth it?
Yeah, that's kind of, I think I mentioned in our last post-game live or a couple ones too. Like, the Fever don't have very much practice time in the playoffs.
Well,
and I think if, Caitlin were to try to come back, they would have to dedicate a lot of time to working her in with the second team or working her in with the first team instead of preparing for the Dream or preparing, for whatever opponent they would potentially have if they get further in the playoffs. So they'd have to, when they had more, practice time or walkthrough time, the last few weeks of the regular season, they had that time to try and integrate Caitlin back into the fold. But this is kind of the time where they need to focus on the players that are available and integrating her back in for a potential for her to play or a potential for her to not play kind of takes away from the preparation they could do, like to prepare for Atlanta or whatever team they play.
Is Chloe considered the Woj of the WNBA? Yes.
Actually, it's Annie Costable is the Woj of the WNBA.
There can be two Wojs.
If you actually asked me without Chloe's name on the screen, I would also said Annie is the Woj.
Thoughts on the 1-1-1 format? I really like it. It has added good excitement. I am a bigger fan of this than I expected, honestly. I thought that it was dumb, but I like it.
As a traveling beat writer, who has to as a traveling beat writer who had to book her flight to Atlanta after the game today, I didn't like that part of it. But I think for the excitement part of it, I thought it was fun. With it gives every team a fair chance too. Like, it just seemed weird to have both games, or like last year, Connecticut didn't even have to come to Indiana to play a game, and it seemed. I mean, I don't want it to be like whining unfair. It's professional basketball; they should be able to win on the road if they need to win on the road. But I just think it just makes it more exciting for the home fans, and I think home fans, if you make the playoffs, I feel like you should have a home game for your fans. But I thought it was a lot more exciting.
Tony?
Yeah, the only road win so far is the OT New York. It's added to fan enjoyment of the game, certainly too, that these have been the results. Like, you put whatever point value you want on what fans are worth in a game, but like Seattle just had to do a 23-7 run in the fourth quarter to win by 3. Like, if fans are worth 3 points, they're done. Their season's over, right? So it's clearly added to that. We got 2 do or die game 3s already. We'll see in the other 2 series, like with Stewie out, I would guess that the best chance of not having that is the 8-1 series, which makes sense. But it's possible we get 3 of them, which is crazy.
Yeah.
The one thing, though, if they're going to keep this, is that they need to do like conferences, and that's something, Chloe, that you've talked about.
Yes.
At least a little more geographically sensible, so you're not doing every other across the country.
We avoided, thankfully, at one point it was looking like every single first round matchup was going to be cross country. We thankfully avoided that.
I was really disappointed the Fever to get Seattle, Tony. I don't know if you
I think we were going to go lost.
It might be coming, Chloe. Keep your eyes peeled.
That's true. But I think obviously they're going to have to figure out something new with the playoffs when they get to 18 teams. I don't know. It's going to be weird, I think, the next couple years because they're adding like 1 team a year. And then do you switch the playoff format every single year, or do you just let it ride until you have all 18 teams in 2030? But that's kind of beside the point of what we're talking about.
Well,
that's the thing.
We brought this up. This is actually related to the Fever, so this is a good history lesson for newer fans. The Fever's last home playoff game before this game was in 2016. They played Phoenix, which is fitting because that was the first year they did away with conferences for seeding. And so it was very far west, Phoenix versus Indy in Indiana, but it was a best of 1 at the time. And like the top 2 teams got like a double bye. Like the bracket looked so stupid. But at the time when the first round was really short, 1 game, it was okay to not have conferences, right? Because who cares? There's not these long travels between series. And then they were like, oh, let's make it a best of 3, but we don't have the charters. So like they keep getting gradually better. And now that they've decided everybody gets a home game, the next gradually better step is the return of conferences mattering, I think, so that there's not insane. And it worked out this year that the only insane one is Phoenix, New York. That's so far. But, it could have been much worse. Yeah. But
I think also, if we're talking about the future of playoffs, I could see the first round becoming a 5-game playoff series.
Best of 5.
Yeah, best of 5 playoff series, I guess is what I meant. But I don't know if that's something that has to be negotiated in the CBA. Everything's up in the air with the CBA. People ask me about 6, and I'm like, I don't know. CBA.
I think they gotta figure out the regular season games if they want to do that, because if they make every round really long and they're playing 50 games, that's just a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Any parting? Oh, I want predictions. First, parting thoughts. Any parting thoughts before we get to predictions from you two?
No,
I don't think so.
No is a valid and good answer.
I could talk about the summer.
We'll save that. We'll let Tony get out of here first. You're going to let me pack up and get ready to go, and then we'll cut you loose. So let's get predictions. Tony, why don't you start us off? Predictions for Thursday, Game 3.
Yeah, closer game is just the natural inclination of how these go, where Game 1 is a fourth quarter blowout in favor of the Dream. Game 2 is the fourth quarter blowout in favor of the Fever. Both teams really know what it's going to take now. They've known what the game plan that works for them to win a game, and I think both teams will be both sharper and on edge because of elimination. So I'll expect a closer game. Look, the gut feeling is that the home team always has the edge, and so my gut would tip towards the Atlanta Dream. But picking against the Fever has done no good for anybody this season. They keep proving everybody wrong with their resiliency. So I'm going to pick against them at my own risk here. But I think it's going to be a tight game and could go either way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Tony. I think my gut this series was Dream in 3, just because, obviously the Dream don't have 5 season-ending injuries, and
right.
The Dream are a lot bigger, a lot more physical, and I think I agree that it's going to be a close game because both teams are on the brink of elimination. Both teams are kind of back against the wall here today or on Thursday, so I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was within 5 or 5 to 7 points, but it'll be interesting to see because it does get really loud in there, and especially who shows up for that game, because there was a good amount of Fever fans on Sunday, and it'll be interesting to see how many Fever fans show up on Thursday. There was one Fever fan that recognized me at the Gateway Center while I was getting, I think it was a black bean burger. Shout out Stuart. Anyway, that's all I have.
All right, that's good stuff, Tony. I will spare you what's about to come. This is where Chloe kills off the rest of our audience, and I contemplate jumping off the sky deck.
Well,
This is a TV show thing.
well, what's
Yeah.
really exciting
Our
about
editor made the mistake of asking her about the plot as well. I was trying to write, and everybody else was trying to write. And Chloe, I swear to God, spent a good 15 to
it
20
was not 15 minutes. It was like 5.
explaining the plot.
What show is it?
This is The Summer I Turned Pretty. The finale is tomorrow, so very exciting.
Are you going to have a way to watch it in your Atlanta hotel room?
Well, the finale comes out. They have a really stupid release schedule. It comes out at 3 a.m. Eastern time, like midnight Pacific time. So I won't watch it in the middle of the night, but I will watch it in the morning. But basically, it's the finale of The Summer I Turned Pretty, right? And this entire thing is like the entire plot is like one girl choosing between two brothers. It's one of those classic things. So basically, she dated the first brother, Conrad, in the first season. They dated for 5 months, and Conrad was the boy she always had a childhood crush on, like forever and ever. She had a crush on him for like 10 years, and then they finally started dating. And then they broke up because their mom was dying of cancer, and he was obviously really sad about that. And he wasn't being a very good boyfriend, so they broke up. And then she started dating Jeremiah, which was the other brother. And she and Jeremiah dated for 4 years, and they were going to get married when they were 21 years old, which is kind of crazy, let me tell you. No one should get married when they're 21 years old. But basically, Belly's the main character's name. She still, had feelings for Conrad, and Conrad still had feelings for her. So, but they were both ignoring them. So basically, the entire third season was them like getting ready for this wedding. And then Conrad finds out that Jeremiah cheated on Belly while he was on spring break in Cabo. And he uses that as being like, I thought Jeremiah was good enough for Belly, and I thought, they were going to have a good life together, and I was going to stay out of the way and like suppress his feelings. But then he decided, obviously he cheated on her. He's not good enough for her. So he confessed his love for her, like literally the night before his wedding, or before their wedding, which was crazy to do. But then Belly told Jeremiah about that, and Jeremiah got really insecure, even though like Belly was like, I love you more. I still love you. But then Jeremiah was like, but you still love Conrad. And she was like, yeah, I think I'm going to always love him a little bit. And he was like, you can't love him a little bit for me, which is kind of fair. But then they broke off the wedding, the morning of the wedding, let me tell you. And then
that's tough.
I know. And then Belly had a midlife crisis. So she goes to Paris, she was supposed to go to Paris on study abroad, but she decided not to because Jeremiah told her he didn't want her to, which was like a red flag. And then they also went like apartment shopping together for their senior year at college. And then he just decided he wasn't going to go to his senior year of college because he was going to take classes online and work at his dad's company, which he never told her about that before, taking that job, which is another red flag. How do you not talk to your future wife about taking an entirely different job before you take the job? But basically, we're at the finale. Belly had a midlife crisis. She went to Paris and didn't talk to anyone. And then there was like a whole year jump in this penultimate episode. And Conrad started writing her letters, and she didn't respond for like the whole year. He like wrote her letters like every month or two. And then finally, she wrote him back because she moved apartments. And so she wrote him back and was like, I've appreciated your letters. Here's my new address, basically telling him to keep writing her letters because she likes them. But then he took that as, let me go to Paris. So because, well, he's a medical student and he was going to a conference in Brussels, which is only an hour and a half train ride from Paris. So he flew to Paris, and the episode ended with him flying to Paris. So basically the finale is going to be him showing up in Paris and surprising her, basically. She has no idea. And then, are they going to get together? Are they going to be together forever? Who knows? So that's what I'm excited for.
So in honor of all the nut jobs and Chloe's mentions, we're gonna let her on Fever Exit interview day, whatever that is. We'll let Chloe just go off on the Summer I Turned Pretty before we get to the Caitlin Clark news and discuss the big happenings from then, so people are forced to sit
maybe
through all
I'll
that.
ask everybody, all the Fever players, what they think of the Summer I Turned Pretty.
I read as many episode synopses as I could while you were describing all that to me. So this is a good lesson about like her passport getting stolen in Paris is like my biggest life fear.
Yes,
I
well,
am so paranoid about that.
basically, that episode was like a 20-minute ad for an AirTag because her backpack was stolen. She has an AirTag in her backpack. So like the entire episode is her like looking at her phone like this and then like going like and like
So
she
she
just
does
like,
find it. That's not in the
Yeah.
synopsis.
she follows her backpack through to like basically a club and it's basically a 20-minute ad for an AirTag because she finds her backpack again. But yeah, so
Wow.
So sorry.
he
That was fun.
reading the episode synopsises. So-
The look of disappointment in Alexa Philippu's face upon discovering what show Chloe was discussing was just
Yes.
Can you see your viewer count? What happened from start to finish of what Chloe just did?
There were like 40 people when we started.
40.
And then it dropped to 26. It went up to 27.
the best was
Yes.
60 or 70s where he peaked one show and we were rolling and it's like, all right, it's time for Chloe's Corner, and it just immediately plummeted down into the 20s. The bottom fell through. Like there was some
I'm gonna wait and not join until you tell me it started.
This time.
I'm looking forward to this now.
It's really magical. So Tony, we would love to have you back on Thursday.
Follow him at Tony R East on X.
Yeah, Tony, why don't you tell the people what you got coming and what you'll have between now and Thursday?
Yeah, I'm gonna write a story for the 9 about their defense. I thought that was the biggest thing that they did in this game was guarded their asses off for 40 minutes. And I asked Carl Smesco about it. I asked the Fever about it, but holding the dream to 60 is why they won this game.
It's really impressive. And where can they find your work?
Yes, in the 9 where I said it will be, but I don't want to say it too much, guys. This isn't an advertisement for me.
Tony, it is an advertisement for you. That's
Read the Fever coverage in Indy Star. There's a huge banner with Chloe's face on it telling you to subscribe to the newsletter right when you get in the arena. There's plenty of places that'll tell you where to subscribe to Indy Star. I love that banner. I wish I had it. It's so funny to me. I love it, Chloe.
We could arrange that for you if you want.
Read Tony's work on the Next. Read our work on Indy Star and
read all the work.
Tune in on, I don't know, we'll have one on Thursday.
We'll have one Thursday from Atlanta whenever the Fever season ends. We'll have a rap show. We'll have a few rap shows, actually.
Yeah.
Chloe and I are working on some surprises for the show. Tony will be back at least on Thursday, maybe for the year-end one, too. Who knows? We're working on some other guests as well. So we have some fun surprises. Thank you all so much for watching and staying with us. Again, just blown away by the turnout for a show that started at midnight.
Yes.
That's pretty damn cool. So thank you guys so much for watching. And if this is the last live post-game show we have together, good stuff. Good night, and thanks to you too, Chickadee Dreams, 12:43 a.m. All right, goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.